Welcome to Spokane Talks, where you find news, views, and conversation that includes respect for opinions, facts, and diversity. Spokane Talks is brought to you in part by McNeice Wheeler Attorneys and River Ridge Hardware.
Welcome to Spokane Talks. I'm Ryan McNeice. First up, Stephanie Regalado and SheSays sits down with the CEO of Snap and discusses their effects on our community. Followed by Ken Sax on Real Estate Talks. We'll sit down and talk about the myth busting of VA financing. Then, on Business Talks, Klaus Kindor sits down for a discussion about classic car holdings and his passion for the vintage car industry.
This is River Ridge Frame Shop, called Frame It Today, where we can take your art, customize it, and get it ready to hang on the wall. Here at River Ridge Hardware, 2803 West Garland.
Welcome to SheSays. I'm Stephanie Regalado with my guest Julie Honekamp, CEO of Spokane Neighbourhood Action Programs, SNAP. Thank you so much for being here today. You have three core pillars. You were 30 programs.
Indeed. Yeah.
150 employees.
Yes.
Nearly 7,000 hours of volunteer work in a year,
Right.
and that's probably hopefully increasing. What are your three core pillars?
Yeah, so SNAP offers services in three areas. So
Okay.
one is housing services, one is financial stability, and one is community action. So a program under housing services would be weatherization.
Okay.
And so we helped weatherize many, many homes, 250 some homes last year
Wow.
alone.
Okay.
In financial stability, we help folks with default counseling and credit repair and help small
Oh,
businesses
okay.
get started,
Excellent.
and helped 48 small businesses get started last year.
That's incredible. And you start from the very beginning, bare bones, of helping create business plans, marketing strategies.
That's right. How to do your taxes, how to do your online media, the whole range, and even are able to lend to folks. We have resources to do small business lending as well.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and then the last is community action, which is what a lot of people know us for, which is around energy assistance and transportation and just a whole variety of programs that help strengthen our community.
Does the homelessness aspect come under that community?
Under community action as well.
And what sorts of work are you doing through SNAP? Or is the organization doing for homelessness in our community?
So we have about 700 some different units of housing kind of on our own and
wow.
in partnership with others, and do primarily focus our homeless efforts on singles.
Okay.
And we are downtown at the corner of 2nd and Wall. There's actually a SNAP office devoted to working with folks that are homeless so they can be assessed and then referred to services.
Oh, excellent. Has that need increased through time? It seems like, at least through news and other reports, that homelessness is becoming an increasing problem, especially in our downtown corridor.
Yeah, I think
Is that
Spokane
true?
has seen a little bit of growth in the homeless arena. We try to work with our partners at Catholic Charities, who really are focused in large part on families, in addition to their work at the House of Charity, and with VOA, who are focused on youth right now.
And with homelessness, there seems to be one of the troubling factors right now that I think are causing rifts between businesses and members of our community are behaviors that are destructive to downtown.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that? Are you?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's happening is the land and available places for people and services. There's a lot of housing being built downtown for that population, which puts them in pretty close proximity.
Yeah.
We're grateful for our partners at Catholic Charities that are willing to serve. It's an incredibly difficult population, and try to help support them and keep neighbors happy at the same time.
That's important. We're going to take a quick break and hear a moment from our sponsors and our supporters, and we'll be right back.
The following is sponsored by our friends and community supporters at McNeice Wheeler Attorneys. McNeice Wheeler is a boutique law firm in Spokane, handling matters in both Washington and Idaho. Areas of law include business law, wills, trusts and estates, family law, personal injury and wrongful death, and real estate matters. For your full-service legal needs, contact McNeice Wheeler Attorneys.
Welcome back, Stephanie Regalado, Julie Honekamp, CEO of SNAP. You have 100 sources of funding, which seems incredible. I think most organizations would love more than 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But community is a big part of that. And how can community become involved in supporting SNAP?
Yeah, so while it sounds like 100 sources is a ton, and it is a
It's
lot.
never enough.
Yeah, it does lead to us being able to serve just shy of 49,000 people. So super, super important to have the support of our community, both through those funding sources, but also through volunteers and through folks willing to give of their financial resources. So we would love to have people that are interested in helping support us, either volunteers or in funding, to go to snapwa.org, or they're welcome to call 456-SNAP, and we're also on social media at SNAP Spokane. So
Excellent. And you're saying 456-SNAP is for anyone
It
to call,
is.
whether you'd like to become involved, whether you would like to see if you qualify for resources. And that could be anything from you've turned on your furnace and it's sounding a little funky.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have the resources to call in someone to do
Indeed.
that, so they can call you and start.
they can start the
The
process
process.
there. That will get to all our locations.
And you also have an ombudsman program
do.
for older adults.
We do. So long-term care ombudsman can also
Yeah.
be accessed through that same number, 456-SNAP.
That's particularly important for women who and men who are in the sandwich generation, concerned about our parents, to call and check in on resources for them,
Indeed.
and also to have someone who is an ally.
That's
Whether
right.
even if you live out of Spokane and your parents live in Spokane,
Yeah.
they can call and access those resources.
Yes, indeed.
You're doing amazing work. Thank you for everything you do. I love your 3 core
So housing services, financial stability, and community action.
through respect.
Community, respect, and justice.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.
Next up on Real Estate Talk, Ken Sax will have an opportunity to sit down with Tony Byrne and do some myth busting on VA financing.
This is River Ridge Frame Shop, called Frame It Today, where we can take your art, customize it, and get it ready to hang on the wall. Here at River Ridge Hardware, 2803 West Garland.
Hi, folks, and welcome to Real Estate Talk. I am your host, Ken Sax, and my guest today is Tony Byrne with Heritage Home Loans. And what we're talking about the biggest myths around VA financing. So we are basically myth busting around VA financing. So Tony, man, one of the biggest things I hear, appraisals. Oh my gosh, the appraisals are going to come in low. It's going to be a mess. I'm not going to be able to close as a seller. Okay, what's the reality with appraisals around VA financing?
So I made a post on my Facebook page this spring, and it was kind of, appraisals are starting to come in low because the market's moving fast and
Right.
so on and so forth. And so I just basically said, here's this. And then I got a bunch of comments that were like, well, it's VA financing. That's why it came in low. And so I did numbers. I ran numbers through what's happened at Heritage Home Loans up to that point. And it was 2% VA, 1% conventional, 1% FHA. And it obviously give or take point whatever, a tenth of a percent. But it was 1% more. And so out of 100 appraisals, one more is going to come in low.
One more.
And so that, that's it's not great, but it's not bad either.
Right.
But we start thinking about if a conventional or an FHA appraisal comes in low, it's low. That's where you're at.
Right.
If a VA appraisal comes in low, you now have a couple of options. You have the first one is called Tidewater that has to be initiated on every low appraisal by the appraiser prior to actually assigning an official value to the property. And that gives the real estate agents in the transaction a chance to fight the value using comparable properties. The problem is when those come in, it's typically the comparables that they're using are worse than what the appraiser has, so that typically doesn't work. You're also arguing with, it would be like me arguing with you on a value that you put on a property.
Sure.
It's in a sense an opinion. So appraisal, Tidewater, it may work, it may not, but let's say it doesn't work. You now have what's called a reconsideration of value, and that's triggered by the veteran. And now in the reconsideration of value process, the appraiser is now taken out of the process. It's sent to the VA Regional Loan Center for us. It's in Denver, and they evaluate the appraisal. On most appraisals, there's a mistake, and so if you find a mistake, you get some of that value back. If that's easy to do.
Perfect. So the myth, because we're running out of time, the myth is the appraisals come in low, and your data says 1% more. And there's an easier way to fight it that you don't have as a conventional borrower. Yeah. So bust that myth, folks. And thank you, Ken Sax here, Real Estate Talk. We'll see you soon.
The following is sponsored by our friends and community supporters at McNeice Wheeler Attorneys. McNeice Wheeler is a boutique law firm in Spokane, handling matters in both Washington and Idaho. Areas of law include business law, wills, trusts and estates, family law, personal injury and wrongful death, and real estate matters. For your full-service legal needs, contact McNeice Wheeler Attorneys.
Welcome back, folks. You are listening to Real Estate Talks with Ken Sax. And again, my guest is Tony Byrne with Heritage Home Loan. And you can go to Tony's website for more information, SpokaneMortgageGuy.com. So we are busting myths around VA financing. And we want to bust the one, Tony, around, no money down, got to be a terrible buyer.
That's the biggest one out there. And so stats from the VA say the median credit score of a VA buyer is 712. The median income is $87,180, and the civilian income is $55, so they make a little bit more money. Their average purchase price is $255,000, and even though they don't have to, 28% of them still use a down payment. So it's zero down. The big thing is, they have no money. They actually have median $17,000 in the bank. The one thing we need to remember is that zero down was earned in a battlefield somewhere or whatever. Right. And so that, they've obviously earned that deal. But that's a conventional buyer that we're talking about.
That's a great buyer. With that credit score and the income. So, but you see, folks, how the perception is zero down, and this is perception among sellers, but also real estate professionals. Some out there that with zero down, I automatically conclude it's zero down because they don't have money, and not having money, they probably have poor credit. Right. And they probably don't make much. So the likelihood for me as a seller to close my house and sell my house with this VA borrower is much less than with a conventional borrower. But Tony just pointed out that's absolutely false. It's simply an option that they are deciding to take advantage of to put no money down. And they've earned it. And if you had that option, you might take that opportunity as well. But that doesn't mean you don't have any money or bad credit. Because again, Tony, over 700, and I mean, my gosh, anybody would want to work with that borrower. So, Tony, thank you again for being here. We've busted that myth. And folks, thank you for listening to Real Estate Talk with Ken Sax. We'll see you next time.
Next up on Business Talks, Klaus Kindor of Classic Car Holdings will sit down with me and discuss his passion for the classic car industry.
The economy is getting stronger, banks are lending again, and interest rates are at historic lows. Now is a great time to buy your dream home. The caring and knowledgeable professionals at Homes for You have been helping people just like you for over 20 years. They take the time to listen to what you want and will help you find just the right home in Washington or Idaho. Real estate is what we do at Homes for You, 928-5782, or visit online at homes4uspokane.com.
Welcome to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeice, and I have the unique pleasure here in the studio with Klaus Kindor, Classic Car Holdings.
Hi, Ryan.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We've had time to chat off camera, and I'm a car enthusiast. You've had a whole lifetime of not only jobs, occupation, and experiences in the vintage and current car industry. Tell us about it. How did this passion begin?
Oh gosh, my parents immigrated from Germany in 1958. My dad actually came over as a technical advisor for Porsche. I think I was probably destined to get into this business. After high school, I started working for a Porsche dealership in Newport Beach, California, called Chick Iverson Porsche Audi. Kind of a cool gig if you're an 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Particularly in Newport Beach.
Yeah, Porsches, Newport Beach, California, teenager.
Yeah.
You're having fun.
It was a pretty tough job.
Yeah.
You know? And I was immediately thrown into an industry that I absolutely fell in love with. I fell in love with automobiles well before I started working in the industry. Cars have been a passion of mine since I can remember, literally.
Well, and not only have you had the business experience starting with Chick Iverson Porsche, as you said, in 1978 in Newport Beach, but you also have been a high-performance driving instructor, as well as regional champion driver yourself.
Got fortunate.
And tell us the story about Italy. One of my favorite stories.
Italy. First of all, I have to kind of give my wife a kudos because this wonderful woman has been to Willow Springs and Buttonwillow, California. And if you're from California, in August and September when it's 120 degrees out, and it's really not her forte, so I got to give her the kudos for that. But I received a phone call. I was fortunate enough to win a regional title in 2003. And in 2005, I was called by Mini. They invited me to go to Italy to be a part of the first Mini Cooper World Championships.
Circuit Mazzano, Italy, right?
Circuit Mazzano, Italy, on the Adriatic. It's about 2 hours south of Venice. And they invited two drivers each from 12 different countries. And myself and another gentleman by the name of Brad Davis from the East Coast were the two American drivers who participated.
So one of two from the U.S.
One of two from the U.S. And we were the show. Now, what we did not know, neither Brad or I, is when we got there, we would actually be participating in 4 different events.
Okay. All in minis?
No, actually, no.
Oh, okay.
The first event we did was on an ATV. We did a time trial on an ATV, and I'd never been on an ATV. That was interesting.
So, new experience. We got to take a quick little break, but I want to come back and chat about how this turns out.
Okay.
We're back with Klaus Kindor, and you are indicating that this incredible opportunity in Italy, one of two drivers from the U.S., how did it turn out?
Oh, gosh. I thought I was pretty good at racing automobiles. I mean, for crying out loud, I won a championship in California, right?
You're a regional champion.
Yeah, and then I got to Italy and found out that those guys are a whole lot better than me. I got my rear end handed to me pretty soundly.
I think that's a great story because I think it shows your humility amongst a lot of experience, not only high performance driving, coaching, racing yourself, and in the car industry. So you moved back to Spokane 2011 from California, came up to Spokane, and with Classic Car Holdings, give us an idea of how you've wrapped all of this background experience into this particular business that you're passionate about.
I'm passionate about automobiles to begin with. I love helping people buy cars. I don't sell cars. I think that's probably the biggest difference. I'm not interested in selling you something. I will help you buy what it is you'd like to get.
Right.
And I've always had that philosophy in the car business, is rather helping my clients. I do classic and vintage cars. I find them, I buy them, I consign them, I sell them. I do contemporary automobiles as well. People call me up and say, Klaus, I'm looking for, a BMW or an Audi or a Cadillac, or I need something for my kid, or I need a van for my business. And rather than going through that 3.5, 4 hour ordeal at a dealership, I'll sit down them one-to-one and find the right car for them and make it really, really simple. I do detailing, high-end detailing.
So really you do the spectrum.
I
If
do.
somebody's looking for a car they're passionate about, looking to buy it, looking to consign it, and everywhere in between. And I think you'd indicated from a photography standpoint, showing that car in its right perspective is a big part of that sale.
Yeah, I think so. The photography done on an automobile when it's being marketed is either going to have somebody stop at that particular car or not.
Right.
And I think the better the photos are. I'm kind of a shutterbug myself, though not necessarily professional at it. I love it. Something I'm truly passionate about.
Maybe although not professional, but you've been in very high-end auto magazines with your photography, and it helps sell.
Yeah, I've been fortunate.
I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you, and I'd encourage anybody to check out Classic Car Holdings and Klaus Kindor's website. Amazing products. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Cindy Hval is a freelance columnist and correspondent for the Spokesman Review and author of War Bonds, Love Stories from the Greatest Generation. The view from her porch is usually sunny.
Mom says I've always been boy crazy. She said from the time I was 6 months old, I'd flutter my eyelashes at the servicemen on the military base where we lived. You'd wave your little hand and say, "Hi there," and they'd make a big fuss over you. It worried me. I cannot verify these reports. All I know is that as a little girl, I was horrified by little boys. Like some exotic species captured and partially tamed by teachers and mothers, they were dirty and smelled funny. They had their own language, punctuated by belches and burps, and they liked gross things like spiders and spitting. They were everything I was not. I mean, as a toddler, I carried a matching handbag that perfectly matched my black patent leather shoes, and my lace-trimmed socks were always spotless. I got over my disgust in 5th grade when Kirby Hansen left a flowery valentine on my desk for me. Kirby wore tight black sweaters and a gold chain. Rumor had it he actually used deodorant and splashed himself with Brute aftershave before school. Our epic romance lasted 2 whole weeks, but it was enough to make me look at the opposite sex with new eyes, and perhaps some fluttering of the lashes. It was also enough to make my mother utter the words "boy crazy" repeatedly. She breathed a sigh of relief when I finally just picked one boy and settled down. My husband and I were blessed with a bouncing baby boy. 2 years later, another boy arrived. They were adorable and all, but when a third boy joined their ranks, I realized little boys were just as disgusting as I remembered. No matter how many times I washed them, they got dirty. They belched entire conversations. They wrestled. They roughhoused. And the noise? Let me tell you, get 3 boys together and you might as well have 30. And just when they are all potty trained and partially civilized, God laughed and sent us another boy. It turns out my mom was absolutely right. I am well and truly boy crazy after raising sons for more than 20 years. And you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. That's the view from my front porch.
Thank you for joining us this morning on Spokane Talks. Join us next week for more news, views, and conversation.
Spokane Talks is about you. Give us your feedback and comments at info@SpokaneTalksMedia.com. Spokane Talks is brought to you in part by McNeice Wheeler Attorneys and River Ridge Hardware. We'll be back next week with additional news, views, and conversations. Please join us. So long for now.